These rules, these were created by the city. And I can see if you're asking for relief from one rule or two rules to build something. But if you're asking for relief from 4 rules on one project, and they're the rules that you put in place for a reason, this just doesn't fit there. It's just too dense, it's just too big. It will look like 2 great big huge buildings squeezing a small street.
Clarify how the site is labeled at 5.25 acres. Architectural review cover letter, the site is described at 5.04 acres. Clarify the discrepancies. The answer is the site is 5.0 or 5.04. So the calculations are off of the wrong number from architecture. When you have to go out that far, there's a reason why you have to go out that far. So they're trying to make the numbers work, but that's not even the right number. We're actually 2.67 times the allowed amount. So for what they want to build there, we need 586,000 square feet. We only have 219,000 square feet. And taking a look at the exceeding the height, as was mentioned, we have 40 feet in the zoning code. They're going 24 feet over. The plans, it's listing Delafield as State Highway 18. They used the highway calculations that used to be State Highway 18. So I'm just curious how that may have affected calculations. Next, I'd like to address the parking. We keep throwing out this number 1.33, but when we look at the code, the number of required spaces, if it went according to our zoning codes and calculations, would be 382 would be required. We're showing 292, short 90 spaces. There isn't parking on the road here. It's not going to work. We keep hearing high density, we need high density. And I'd like to address the historic preservation overlay, still on the Blair property. That's why in November we're going to Madison, because the city's trying to get the Blair's historic boundary changed. I've been seeing comments on other projects where you've been saying it needs to fit into the neighborhood. It does, except for ours. You've heard from the people that live here, this does not fit into our neighborhood. Please, please reconsider. We're losing 110 trees. We have buildings 24 feet up above our landlines, as whether there shall be adequate provision for safe traffic circulation and safe driveway locations. That's part of your job. You're supposed to determine that for us.
I'm sensitive to the neighbors. Looking at this as an architect, I've always been put in positions, whether it's with developers, without, how can you make this work if we did this? What if we change that? What if we remove this? That's the nature of the business. So the reason I asked the question before about taking a floor off the building or removing access to Madison Street, those seem to be issues for views from the neighbors looking out, views and concerns about traffic in winter, which we get occasionally. And so what I'd like to do is put the developer on notice that you need to really understand what the neighbors are asking for. You need to see if you can do something that is sensitive to their needs and still meets your requirement. I'm not against the architecture. It's current, it's contemporary, it's what most developments like this look these days. But I am concerned about what it does to the neighborhood. So does Waukesha need development? Yes, it does. Does it need development on this site? It's been derelict for some time, and so new development, along with what's happening in City Hall, is good for the city, but with the criteria that it be sensitive to what the neighbors are asking. Will you be able to do that 100%? I guarantee you won't. Can you do something better than what you propose now? I believe you can. So what I'm asking you to do, and I realize what Joan is somewhat cautious, I'm asking you to go back, talk to the architect, talk to whoever you need to, see what you can do to understand all the comments that the neighbors made. Because I think if you can get them on board, it's a slam dunk. Right now, I'm a little bit concerned that we're going to create something that's going to cause as much irritation as it will be value. Does the city need the tax base? Yes. Once we got water, we've got a band around the city where new development adds new taxes, helps the city in general. But I don't want to create a situation where we cause problems. So right now I see there's a disconnect between what the developer wants and what the neighbors want. I think there's a middle ground. There usually is. And so what I'm asking you to do is go back and see if there's a middle ground somewhere that addresses the comments. And so my recommendation, and if Joan's in agreement, is to put this on hold for a time, which gives you an opportunity to go back and look at it. We're not trying to kill the deal. We're trying to make it more sensitive to what the neighbors are asking for.
Thank you. As to your comment, desire to do that, I'm always looking for middle ground. There's NIMBYism, there's all these other things, but my sense is it's too tall, it's too dense. I think the developers indicated those are deal breakers. I don't know if those are resolvable. Perhaps the driveway is, but from my viewpoint, too tall, too dense, I don't know if that's resolvable. It's 24 feet taller than our zoning code. So I don't want to kick the can down the road if we're going to simply do this again and those issues are unresolvable.
I feel that once this is built, when you drive into our downtown from the west, people will be met by a large 4-story apartment complex. No longer will they see the site of our downtown, the river, the parks. What we have here is a plot of land a little over 5 acres, 219 apartments in a 4-story building. And while the city code is a suggestion, apparently, this does not take away the responsibility of the Planning Commission. And as a long-term resident, I feel you're letting the community down, especially the neighborhoods west of this project.
I've spent 3.5 decades doing 3D rendering, so I know a little bit about renderings. That's not a 4-story building. No matter how you cut it, that's a 4.5-story building. At what point do we draw the line? Why have this built without having an actual rendering, and I'm talking about a 3D rendering done on the plot of land with the surrounding area? It's not that difficult to do. Can anybody tell me how much they're buying the site for?
It's roughly 2.5 million.
Roughly 2.5 million. Somebody from the Mandel Group at that first meeting was, it would take us about a week to make that rendering that I was talking about. I don't see how you build that building without seeing what it really looks like. It takes a week, so be it, it takes a week. They're going to spend $2.5 million buying a piece of property. They're going to make, God, I can't even imagine how much money. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and in this case, it's probably worth about $2.5 million. Once the building's built, you can't take it down, but if you see the rendering and you go, gee, I really don't like the way that looks in the surrounding area, you can say, let's not build that building.
We don't have the view of what it looks like, but this isn't even an accurate view. You're showing 12 feet of grass, trees, and the sidewalk.
I defer that to the architect, but it looks like there may be a little more green space there. The building is probably shifted over to the right a little further.
We had asked last time about the parking. It was 90 spaces short. I haven't heard any resolutions for those 90 spaces. Has there been any resolution presented for that?
This is a PUD, so the Plan Commission can provide for variances on that.
For the parking as well?
Yes.
Granted, you are able to grant that relief, but where will those extra 90 parking cars go?
And we had many residents show up and speak, and people pretend to listen to their concerns. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed on any of it. And so everybody that attended all of those meetings, it was a waste of their time because nothing changed. And the commission put it on hold last time for a developer to look at some of the concerns. Well, I don't think they looked at them because I see nothing different. You've heard the concerns of everybody. The height of the building hasn't changed. The driveway was a major concern. That hasn't changed. Nothing has changed.
The proposal, it is
I've got a couple problems with this. I just think the driveway to the south is a problem. I had asked the developer if there was a problem with taking some height out of the south building. Certainly at the corner, if we could drop a floor off quarter way through the building so it's not so massive on the corner. I don't have a problem with the architecture, I just think the mass is pretty intense. I also recommended we create some view corridors through the building by not having a solid massive wall, by creating either a glass box or some separation in tenant space so the building doesn't look totally massive all the way up the street. So both of those recommendations were disregarded, and so I won't be voting positively.
The ones that I do disagree with are those that cause me to choose to vote against this project. The aesthetics of this building, I like. Standalone, just looking at it, a lot of work went into it. It just looks nice. But the problem I have, and again, I spoke extensively, I think, the last couple of meetings, so I won't repeat those comments, the traffic patterns, it's not a cookie-cutter decision, at least in my mind, if we approved a PUD at a different location, that just because we had densities at that location that I found acceptable, doesn't mean I automatically find them acceptable at this particular location.
I believe it's important that we prioritize future residents, people who are going to be living at this site, over existing residents' views. I trust the work of the professionals who've done the traffic studies.
That motion passes 5-2.